Today, I want to talk about the price of Bitcoin and the conflicting narrative between the Bitcoin chart and the stock market. And I also want to talk about the Federal Reserve balance sheet and what this means for the stock market. Today on Twitter, I said the Bitcoin weekly chart looks so good, but the stock market looks so bad. And this is making me feel a little bit conflicted. Now, my opinions on things have not changed. I still think there's more of a chance of a stock market crash and also a pullback for the price of Bitcoin following the stock market. So we're gonna be talking about all of this and more in today's video. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Kevin Svenson, and today we're going to be talking about Bitcoin, the stock market, and a few key things that may be impacting prices soon. First of all, let's take a look at Bitcoin on the weekly chart. Bitcoin has broken above the multi-year downtrend. And this is amazing to see, right? We've broken above the multi-year downtrend. We've come back to retest it as support, and we're actually holding the 21-week EMA, this blue line here, which is historically a sign of a bull market. And as long as we're holding above it, that is a confirmed bull trend. So if we're just looking at the Bitcoin chart and not considering anything else in the world, yes, things do look really good. It looks really bullish, and it honestly looks like Bitcoin wants to test up to 12K and actually start to break out again. But right now, there are some things outside of the crypto market that I just can't ignore. And that is the stock market. The S&P 500 has developed bearish divergence on the weekly chart. We have higher highs on price, lower levels of relative strength, and this is the exact same bearish setup that we had in 2018 before the major correction when Bitcoin ran down to 3,100. And now we're seeing the exact same type of potential setup. And a lot of people in the crypto space have been misinformed about the Bitcoin stock market correlation. Today on Twitter, I talked about this. I said Bitcoin weekly chart looks so good, but the stock market looks so bad. And then below this, I made a post where I showed the S&P Bitcoin correlation and the gold Bitcoin correlation. There's like a big debate about what is Bitcoin correlated to. Is it the stock market? Is it gold? Well, it's actually a little bit of both. If we take a look at this image, we can see that the S&P 500 and Bitcoin have the strongest correlation overall, looking at the correlation coefficient tool. We can see that majority of the time, the S&P 500 and Bitcoin are strongly correlated. But what I find super interesting is that in the moments where the S&P and Bitcoin are less correlated, gold and Bitcoin become more correlated. Similar thing happened here. At the end of 2019, Bitcoin and the S&P were very uncorrelated, but gold was much more correlated to Bitcoin. And gold and Bitcoin, in my opinion, have a moderate correlation, and the S&P and Bitcoin have the strongest correlation over time. And very likely this can be explained by Bitcoin's speculative nature. Bitcoin's price has obviously been mostly driven by speculation. Bitcoin is still being discovered by Wall Street in a lot of ways, and we're just finally starting to see big institutions betting on Bitcoin as a good hedge against inflation. The major Wall Street funds that are buying Bitcoin are using it to hedge against inflation. Nobody talks about hedging Bitcoin against stock market movements because, as we know, Bitcoin is 80% of the time, actually over 80% of the time, Bitcoin's trend is following the S&P's trend, and we can actually see that, right? If you tried to use Bitcoin as a hedge against the stock market, you would lose 80% of the time. So now that we have this covered and we know that the data and the math all agrees that Bitcoin is correlated to the stock market, now we can go back and start analyzing this trend. What's very interesting about Bitcoin in the short term, by the way, if you compare it to the S&P chart, they both reversed pretty much around the same day. But what's interesting about the Bitcoin chart right now is that we've seen a lot of demand recently. And the price has actually been trending up as the S&P has been seeing actually lower lows. And a lot of people are saying, oh my God, Bitcoin's decoupling from the stock. People are very quick to jump the gun and just say Bitcoin has finally decoupled based on a few days of data. And I think that's absolutely wrong. If the S&P does see a major reversal next week, Bitcoin is most likely, with an 80% certainty, going to also see a major reversal. And also, election season is usually bearish, and we have historic data to tell us that. So everything that I'm analyzing right now is telling me you should be getting bearish on the market right now, actually. But here's the catch. If the stock market, for whatever reason, sees a major bounce to the upside next week and we actually reverse the trend back up, for whatever reason, then Bitcoin would actually end up going along with the bullish narrative that we see on the weekly chart and seeing a major breakout and most likely entering a bull market. Now, the reason why I actually think that the stock market won't see a bounce, and I actually think the stock market is going to see a major reversal, is the Federal Reserve balance sheet. If we take a look at the Federal Reserve's balance sheet since the beginning of the year, we can see that in March, obviously the balance sheet had an exponential growth because they printed trillions of dollars and started to support the economy, buying up assets and all these sort of things. So the balance sheet grew tremendously and has since then, since around beginning of June, things started to flatline, right? And then retail traders came in after the major stock market bounce and started to drive up prices as the Federal Reserve balance sheet started to flatline. And a lot of investors in the stock market right now are a little bit worried about this chart because the Federal Reserve isn't increasing its purchases right now. It's not, we're not seeing huge growth in the balance sheet, which means that it's a little bit more uncertain about what direction the stock market is going to take. If the balance sheet began to grow rapidly again, then the stock market would be much more supported. But right now, it's actually very likely, very possible that the stock market is going to see a downturn. And as I explained in my previous videos, a lot of people are so certain, for whatever reason, they're so certain that the Fed won't let the stock market dump. I quoted some comments on this post basically saying that I find it very scary that everyone is bullish on the stock market. But if you take a look at the Fed balance sheet, well, it's actually showing that we may not see a continued pump in the stock market. We see a flat line on the balance sheet. So keep that in mind, guys. In my opinion, the bearish narrative for the stock market makes a lot of sense. It's a very conflicting thing, right? It's very conflicting because we have such a bullish setup in the Bitcoin market. And it looks like Bitcoin really just wants to run up and create that next major bull trend. But we also know that there's a strong degree of correlation between the stock market and Bitcoin. So this is why I've been getting more bearish on the stock market and ultimately more bearish on Bitcoin. This is just what my analysis is leading me towards, that if the stock market reverses, Bitcoin would very likely see a dump to the downside. I'm not saying that it's confirmed that we're going to see a huge crash or anything like that. The pullback might be slow, right? We might see a slow pullback in the stock market, a slow pullback for Bitcoin. I'm not necessarily saying we're going to see another March happen again, although who knows? But overall, everything is telling me to be cautious right now. Everything is telling me that I should be erring on the side of bearishness, actually. Now, in this scenario, obviously the altcoins are not going to be doing very well. Ethereum is generally just going to follow Bitcoin. And taking a look at Chainlink is going to see much lower prices in a bearish scenario. If we're looking at the daily chart, the 21 and the 55 EMAs are about to have a death cross. So if Bitcoin does play out this 4-hour bearish divergence, and we see a dump for Bitcoin, very likely Chainlink is going to see a major dump as well. And this goes for pretty much all of the altcoins. All of the altcoins are looking very bearish right now, very weak. And until Bitcoin can see some major bullish confirmation, I think the altcoins will probably have a pretty poor performance. And as you guys know, over the past many weeks, I've been talking about bearish scenarios for Chainlink. I've been talking about how I've been reducing exposure from the market and staying cautious and staying a little bit more conservative overall because of everything else that's going on right now in the market. I'm staying very conservative. But just to reiterate, if the stock market sees a major recovery and Bitcoin, starts to bounce up past 12,000, obviously things are going to get really bullish really fast. But I'm just explaining my thoughts here, and I'm just backing up what I've been saying recently in all of my videos, doing a bit of an overview here. If you guys enjoyed this video, if you found it helpful, if you found it interesting, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Also, be sure to sign up with the Cryptowatch platform, which is the platform you see me use in all my videos. You can chart and trade for free, guys. You can use the trading features for free. And also, they're going to be adding the volume profile tool next Tuesday. So if you're signed up, look out for that next Tuesday. And if you're not signed up, click that link below and sign up for Cryptowatch. It's completely free, guys. You got nothing to lose. And if you're interested in supporting the channel, be sure to join Patreon. You can get extra content in Patreon. So if that interests you, join the Patreon. And I will see you guys in the next video.